Right on, right on. You got your own intro there, Pierre. Happy to be joined in studio by hockey insider Pierre LeBrun. Coincidence that your first in-studio appearance happens when Jay is not here?
No, I mean, in fact, he told me on our segment last week that he wouldn't be here this week, so hence here I am. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, it's trade deadline week.
Trade deadline,
and
duly
I'm
noted.
in here every day, pretty much.
All right. There's a new man at the top, Mikko Rantanen, now at number 1 on TSN's trade bait list. Are you telling me that Rantanen is now going to be traded twice in the span of 6 weeks?
It's possible. It's not for sure. And it is fascinating. And I've been on record saying this. I think it's ridiculous to go down this route if you're Carolina, because the premise of having dealt for him 6 weeks ago was that he was the best rental in the NHL this year, and you're trying to win a cup. But the Hurricanes, absolutely, from what CJ and Dregs and I have compiled here in the last few hours, are absolutely finding out what teams are willing to forego with to acquire Mikko Rantanen.
Right.
Now, I have to be careful here. I think they're fully canvassing the market and getting an understanding of the situation here over the next 24, 48 hours. Then they have to decide, are we still trading him? And they might. And I think a lot of it has to do with, I think, ownership. I think Tom Dundon in Carolina, I don't think he's happy that they haven't been able to extend Mikko Rantanen.
Right.
That was the plan when they traded for him 6 weeks ago. And so we'll see. Teams that our understanding have checked in with Carolina include the Dallas Stars, who have cap room because of their injuries, Vegas, Florida. So all interesting to see where this goes. New Jersey Devils have kicked tires, but they're probably not going to be able to get a guy who from a team that may play in the first round of the playoffs.
Well, what about the Devils then? Because they just got news on Hughes. He is going to be out, unfortunately, for the rest of the season. But they've all of a sudden got a lot of cap room. So what do you think they're going to do now before the trade deadline?
They're calling pretty much every single team in the league right now. Tom Fitzgerald, the GM of the Devils, Jen, and they have obviously the $8 million to play with from Jack Hughes. They'd much rather have Jack Hughes in their lineup, but he's out for the season. And they are trying to go out and find help up front. Brock Nelson is a player of interest for sure for the New Jersey Devils, but I
feel like his name's coming up for a lot of teams right now.
He's the number 2 name on TSN's trade bait board, and he's pending UFA. That situation itself with Brock Nelson has been fascinating to monitor. Lou Lamoriello loves Brock Nelson. You saw the emotion from Brock Nelson after the Islanders game the other night. It's dawning on him that he might be leaving. And it's been kind of a painstaking process, I think, to get Lou Lamoriello to want to trade Brock Nelson, where he's starting to understand, I think, in the last 24 hours that he's probably not going to be able to re-sign Brock Nelson, which is what he really wanted to do. And once that realization is there, because I think Brock Nelson wants to go to market, then it's, do I still trade him or do I actually keep him? Because the Islanders woke up on Wednesday morning 3 points out of a playoff race. Now, there's a million teams in that Eastern race, but it's still a consideration with Lou Lamoriello, who historically has not always traded pending UFAs, even though it's the thing to do when you're not sitting in a playoff spot. But the interest in Brock Nelson is through the roof because of the position he plays. You mentioned the Winnipeg Jets, absolutely the number 1 name on their list, but the Toronto Maple Leafs have checked in a few times on Brock Nelson. Minnesota Wild, that's where he's from, Brock Nelson. And I can absolutely guarantee you that on July 1st, the Minnesota Wild will be front and center for Brock Nelson. But whether or not they can trade for him in the next 48 hours, they would really have to move around some pieces because they have no cap room. But the Colorado Avalanche have showed interest. New Jersey Devils, that's how we got into this, because the Devils are trying to replace Jack Hughes. So the interest for Brock Nelson is through the roof. But I can't sit here right now and guarantee you that Lou Lamoriello will trade him. We'll see.
How about the situation in Edmonton right now? We've been seeing the puck in the back of their net quite a bit lately.
Yeah.
They've got Calvin Pickard. They've got Stuart Skinner. Obviously, they thought they were going to be able to ride these guys, I'm guessing, through to the postseason, and it's not looking great between the pipes for them. Do you think that Edmonton is going to look for a goaltender? Are they looking for a goalie, or there's just nobody out there that is really an upgrade on who they already have?
So I know there's a lot of Oilers fans who don't want to hear this, but Stan Bowman has told other teams that his priority is not to upgrade his goaltending, and I think in part because he doesn't see what he believes to be an automatic upgrade on the market. And I understand what people see. Well, goaltending's not good enough right now. Okay, who's available that you know for sure would be that much better.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Is Jordan Binnington available? He had a great Four Nations. He hasn't had a great year.
Right. Gibson, he's the
John
other name that
Gibson
comes
is
up, right?
available, yes, and he would waive his no trade to go to Edmonton. We've reported that before, but he's been inconsistent the last few years. He's got 2 more years on his deal at $6.4 million. I don't know that the Oilers view that as an upgrade on Stuart Skinner, the version of Stuart Skinner that helped him get to a Game 7 of a Cup final last year. That's the version that the Oilers still hope to bank on come playoff time. No, the priority for the Oilers, I think, right now, judging on what I'm hearing around the league, is they're trying to upgrade their blue line.
Right.
That's where they're trying to go. They're trying to go get a defenseman. I kind of wonder about Brian Dumoulin in Anaheim, who's a pending UFA. Now the Ducks now have played themselves into the periphery of the Western playoff race, so we'll see whether or not they move him. But I think it's imperative for the Oilers to upgrade on defense, but also there is no magic wand for what the trade deadline at this point can do for the Oilers. I actually love their Trent Frederick pickup, but the answer comes from within. They've been awful since the Four Nations break.
Better, the guys that they have on their team right now.
They got to figure it out.
You mentioned Brock Nelson and the Toronto Maple Leafs maybe kicking tires on Brock Nelson. I mean, there's a team where they see the Panthers going out and making their move. They saw the Bolts going out and making their move, and they haven't done anything yet. Is there more pressure because of those two teams doing something already, or was the pressure already there for the Toronto Maple Leafs?
So I will tell you that whenever I've asked the GM that question over the years, when a rival makes a big move around this time of year or around July 1st, 100% of the time the GM will say, no, I can't let myself get influenced by what the Joneses are doing. But the reality is, I think there is a lot of pressure on Brad Treliving and the Toronto Maple Leafs because they have holes, and they have holes that could prevent him from finally breaking through in the playoffs. They need a third-line center. That's just reality. And it's not us pointing that out. Brad Treliving himself, through numerous media availabilities this year, has pointed that out. I also think they need a right-shot D, and they're trying to get both. You know, Brock Nelson would be ideal. Braden Shen, I think, would be ideal, but the price on Braden Shen right now is exorbitant. I don't know if the Leafs be willing to go there, but they might.
This is a prospects thing. They're going to want the 3.
The equivalent is essentially of 3 first-round picks, is what Dregs has talked about.
Right.
And you know, Scott Lawton is there from Philly, so certainly some options, but some of the lower options that the Leafs were maybe banking on still being there later in the week are gone. Right. Jake Evans re-signed in Montreal. They had checked in with Montreal on him. Yanni Gourde traded to Tampa.
Gone,
So that's another reason why there's some pressure here, because the center market is not that vast.
How about in Vancouver? You got Brock Besser. He is a pending UFA. Elias Pettersson's no trade kicks in on July 1st. What do you expect to happen in Vancouver? Are they going to move either of these guys?
I don't think Pettersson's going anywhere. I think they need him to just have a good finish of season, play strong, and then figure out after the season heading into July 1st what they're doing with him. Besser is trickier. Besser's trickier because I don't think they'll get him signed to an extension by Friday's trade deadline. Then what? You're in the playoff race. You're not in a great place in the playoff race. I think it comes down, honestly, to the quality of the offers they get on Brock Besser. And as of when you and I are speaking here, I don't think the quality of the trade offers have been that great. So for Brock Besser. So right now, I'd say he's staying, but that could change.
As for the Jets, best team in the league, best record in the league.
Canada's team.
Canada's team. There's always this term of like, should they push all their chips into the middle? Should they go for it? Should they? And what does that mean?
I think they should, to the degree that I think they have to do everything they can to add, because this is a special year that is shaping up, and you don't get this shot every year. I know that a lot of their core is signed, and they have arguably the best goalie in the world in Conrad Hellebuck, but it doesn't always work out where things just work out perfectly in rhythm like this season has for them. And I think they have to add. And the reason they have to add, too, is that, the cap is going up dramatically over the next 3 years. Are we for sure convinced that the Jets will always be a cap team? Maybe. I mean, they've always been so far since they've come into the league. But I think there's a special opportunity here, and that's why I think Kevin Cheveldayoff will do everything he can on Brock Nelson. If not Brock Nelson, Scott Lawton, and so on and so on. And I think add a piece on D. Can he get a David Savard out of Montreal? So I don't think the Jets want to come out of here empty-handed. I think it's imperative for them to add.
Trade Center, we're almost there, Pierre. This is the part in the show where we shake hands. Thanks, Pierre.
Watch out, Jay.